and answer what information you need, introduce you to the right people so you can get access to insight and information about what the project manager is going to do. But, I think that is an expectation from the industry, especially the sourcing industry, that they need to step up and ask the right questions and ensure that they are investing the time, making the effort to actually get that access to information. So there's one thing about opening the door to what is inside HCL, what are our clients looking for, what are our delivery managers looking for, what kinds of projects are there, what kind of work will they be doing. The window and door is open. The question is, how far are you going to step in? Because that takes effort from your side. So this is not going to be a one-way journey. That is for sure. We are expecting the sourcing industry to be our partners in this journey. Everything we talk about is really about three things. It's about co-creating, it's about consulting and creating together, and making connections. Those three things are very important for us. And even in this relationship, we believe that we made the connection. We will continue to strengthen it. Right? We expect to consult each other. I think Naveen talked about mutual education, and the answers are to be co-created, which means there needs to be investment on both sides. So I think that's what will provide you the information you're looking for.
I think some of the some examples that we have of people within this room itself are people who've come up and introduced probably technical assessment partners to us, which has eliminated, let's say, a certain round of technical evaluations. There are people who've come up and saying, why are you doing this way? Do it in some other fashion, or you should be probably hiring TP rather than somebody else. So I think those are probably the models that have helped. I think the model of you will see a demand, you will respond to it, and so on, is the one that is getting commoditized. And it'll fast get commoditized in some way. Which actually probably, I'll just remind you again, if you have questions to the panel, if you could just write it on your, either on the Zuri notepad or on your visiting card, I could probably ask one of them. Which goes back to, I think, Sudhakar, in terms of, from an external perspective, what are the changes in partnering models that you're seeing as you work with lots of clients locally, globally? Sudhakar is from Adecco.
See, I think the future of recruiting is in the form of master service providers. I think when you become a master service provider, you take the total ownership of delivery for a particular organization, be it numbers, be it quality. The most important thing is cost saving. Second is vendor rationalization. Third is predictability in terms of delivery. And fourth is quality of people you deliver. For all this, the master service provider works with multiple vendors, has the capability to manage multiple vendors through a vendor management tool. And in the vendor management tool, the tool is nothing but a procurement engine which ensures that you get the best price, good quality candidates, and timely delivery. There are a lot of analytics which can be pulled out from the vendor management system. I think more than 60% of US hiring, especially in the technology space, is through MSPs. And I think we are not too far off. The second thing I see, I think we've already started doing that work in India the last couple of years, is RPOs. Total ownership of delivery, where we partner with customers. Maybe that could be answers to the answer to what Prithvi was saying, that understanding the company, working closely with the organization, delivering what the company wants, what the client wants. And you will be able to identify the right candidate with the right skills, fit, the right culture fit, and also, look at somebody who's, with the ideapreneurship quality. So unless you work closely with customers through clients with RPOs, I think we will, be looking at recruiting one-off candidates without understanding what the company wants. I think the future is RPOs and MSPs.
Is that something that you see as a trend growing in India as well? And you said,
yeah, I think Edeco, the company I represent, is number one in RPOs. The total spend in across the globe is about $60 billion, and we do close to about 19 billion out of that. And we are working with a lot of customers on MSPs in India too.
That's good. That's good to see clients do that. I mean, interestingly, I mean, you did mention on this partnering model, and I was part of one of the workshops that a very large partner of us in UK did this for us. I mean, just the experience of going through it, for about 3 hours, where they were trying to understand this in a very innovative way around the critical enablers for the organization at a growth level. What are the challenges for people, and just overall in the 3 hours, probably the firm understood the organization, what drives it, the talent challenges, and various other things. And that's something that is probably, I mean, something that you can take away, things that you could do probably in your partnership models as you evolve. I'm going to go back to, I mean, I think Krishnan, in one of the things that you said about the alternative growth that may happen either in the industry, certainly for HCL, is that going to change some of the talent requirements that may come up in the next 2 or 3 years? Because, I mean, the talent pool is the same. Is our expectation going to change because of that?
So, I had some questions on that, so let me just explain the model once again. So if you look at a business function in a company, I took the example of a back office finance function. Back office finance function operates on an infrastructure and network layer, which is their servers and things like that, on top of which sit a bunch of applications, on top of which run a set of processes by people. Now, in the alternative outsourcing model that I described, what's going to happen is we will go and take that entire business function out and serve the business function back as a service. It's not difficult to understand. An HRO, for instance, Hewitt and others have been doing something similar, albeit perhaps with not that level of technology and so on. Now, what's going to happen then is if you now look at the stack, the infrastructure will move into the cloud and be delivered as a service. So the management of infrastructure will crunch. A lot of the applications which will be delivered will again be delivered in a software as a service model, which will reduce the application development and maintenance requirement. What's going to add a lot is going to be in the process layer of people who have the capability to now run that stack and actually provide that business function as a service. So in this case, when I take a back office finance function, what it's fundamentally doing in a bank is reporting and compliance. So you will build a utility on reporting and serve back to the bank on reports. We today are doing certain engagements like this with a logistics provider. We get paid on shipping invoices. An air freight invoice is priced differently. A rail invoice is priced differently. So just so that you understand, I think the pressure it's going to start placing on us from a manpower perspective is on the domain side. You will see enormous pressure starting to come through in terms of people who understand the delivery of that functional service, because a lot of the technology architecture is going to dramatically change in terms of the productivity with which it is delivered. Does that answer your question, Mary?
So what you're saying is that people need to come with a solution mindset, people need to understand the business, a lot more industry focus, and it's not just limited to I know Java and I'm the best in Java kind of a thing. And
let me just give one more, today if you look at the cloud and software service market from a ISV perspective. So the traditional ISVs are SAP and Oracle. Right now as we sit, there is $15 billion of revenue that software as a service providers are making. Now SAP and Oracle, who are the giant gorillas of the past, have precisely 2 billion out of that 15. 13 billion belongs to a whole host of other players. There's Salesforce there and so on and so forth. So there is a fragmentation that's going to start happening in the market, and the service provider actually is going to come through and deal with the fragmentation and convert a fragmented IT provision into a service to business. So you're going to need that crossover between technology and domain So techno-commercial skills will be.
Quite a few questions that have come up in the last couple of minutes. If you could still continue writing some of them. Clearly, I mean, I guess some of the questions that have come up are rubber hits the road, which is for Kavita, which is, tell me the numbers, tell me which businesses are growing, where do you want us to focus on, hiring strategies for 2013, kind of thing.
Okay. In terms of numbers, let me just give you a larger perspective of where we hire, what kind of skills, which areas. So we hire across three large areas. One is enterprise applications. We do a lot of hiring in the infrastructure management space. We hire for BPO, BServe, our BPO division. The lateral hiring that we do month on month is anywhere in India between 1,400 to 1,600 kind of numbers. Half of this comes from our BPO division. The rest of it is between infrastructure and EAS. In terms of, so infrastructure, again, while we are doing about 500 odd numbers, I think we would be looking at you to help us take this closer to the 700-800 kind of a number. There is a lot of appetite for more numbers in the infrastructure management space, and that is, I think, something which you can relate to our the way the segments are growing within the organization as well. In terms of what would be expectations, I think primarily two, and I think if we get that, the rest of it is kind of falls in place. In the last 6 months, we've kind of moved our recruiting fulfillment in the lateral space up by about 10 percentage points. But I know in our next review with Prithvi, he would say, if you're doing 90% fulfillment within SLAs, either your SLAs are slack, if you're doing it in 30 days, why can't you do it in 15 days or 20 days? Second, if you are doing 90%, why can't we move it up to a 98%? So I'm just preempting those questions, Prithvi. So those are two things I think which would be our focus for this year and support required from the partners here to be able to deliver faster in terms of turnaround times, get us access to certain supply pools which we probably today don't have access to. There is an internal sourcing team as well, and we do a lot of direct sourcing on social networking sites. So if a candidate is available there and active in the market, probably our recruiter will get to them first before the opportunity comes to you. So I think we would be looking at how you can get us people who are not active, passive candidates that you can tap for us. I think that will be some of the expectations.
Perfect. That answers probably 4 or 5 questions around
Thank you.
numbers and so on. I think the two big plays also are, which is what some of the people have been alluding to the workshop this morning, is the whole contracting piece, where we would hire from, like I said, from almost nothing to or close to about 10,000 people in the next 12, 15, 18 months across just in India. And that's a huge space for us, for you to consult and partner, not just fulfill in any form. I'm going to come back to a last question to Prithvi. I mean, 1 or 2 expectations from this particular group that you have, maybe disruptive practices that you've seen on partnering. What do you want them to do in the next 1-2 years?
I think one thing we continue to look for is insight, analytics, trends, profiling. If I sort of bucket all that up in one space, what does the candidate who chooses or wants to be at HCL look like, and what is the value proposition that resonates with him? I think if you are meeting, double the people that we are meeting, you are in a better place to tell us the answers to that. So I think using and it depends on your own systems, processes, the way you collect information, but helping us understand the talent market better is one thing which we're very keen on. And we're looking for insight for that, and that will differentiate your company from others if you can provide that based on the pool that you are touching for us. The second thing I think that will help us is really around talent pools and maintaining talent pools, whether virtually, online, or whether with yourselves in some sort of an arrangement that you have, building virtual talent pools and which can be accessed on tap to respond to Kavita's goal of reducing time to fulfillment to 15 days, 3 days, 5 days. That's something we are very keen to explore. What does that take? As I said to Vivek, we are willing to step up, but we are looking for people who have ideas on how to enable that. We need to meet that halfway, because that maintaining those virtual talent pools for us is going to become very important going forward. And the last but not the least is taking the story out. Telling people that HCL is the world's largest ideapreneurship, and this is where careers of the future, working in a company that is going to invent alternative outsourcing, this is the place to be now. Is very important for us, so that I think HCL has been, it's become very well known over the last few years, but it's still quite a well hidden, kept secret. So I think that you have an opportunity to be the window to many people about what we are about, and hopefully you can be those ambassadors for us as well. So I would say those 3 things would be important from my perspective.